Welcome to the Put On Waivers Media Group, home of the Put On Raiders podcast and the Student Body Right podcast. This is your place for the best breakdowns and the best insight for those who fight on and bleed silver and black. Now, here are your hosts, Dwayne Douglas and Ryan Holmes.
Hey, and welcome everybody to the glorious episode of the Put On Raiders podcast, a little emergency edition here because the Raiders actually did something in free agency. Myself, Dwayne Douglas, along with Ryan Holmes, RTPW podcast is my Twitter handle, and then RHOLM22 is Ryan's. Ryan's on the road in a random parking lot because we had to pull over. I had to pull over after this news was done here with Chandler Jones joining the Raiders here, and then also, the Raiders have traded Yannick Ngakoue for Rock Young. How you say his last name again?
Rock Ya-Sin.
So, first, let's go with the least known player in the whole deal because I don't know if Raider fans know Rock very well. He had a good year at corner for the Colts last year. The Raiders desperately need corners. The Patrick Graham has talked about playing a 4-2-5, and he wants 5 really good corners. What are your thoughts about them acquiring Rock here from the Colts?
Yeah, he'll be in a contract year, so it's a 1-year deal with the Raiders. He was I want to say a second-round pick out of University of Temple 3 years back. Kind of been inconsistent in his career over there in Indianapolis. He got a lot of playing time this past year due to some injuries. He has a chance to be a starter in this defense. Physical guy, probably better in a man scheme than zone. So we'll see what kind of scheme that Graham's going to run out there, but he gives them some physicality in the secondary. The one question I have is I've seen some reports that, he gets a lot of penalties. So we'll have to see, in a Raiders uniform, he might get even more than he got with the Colts. So we'll see. It's definitely a guy that's going to challenge for a starting spot. I'd say right now it's Mullen and Ya-Sin are the two guys. I still wouldn't be against bringing in Bradbury or Gilmore if they want to come and let those other guys fight out for this opposite them. But he's a quality corner. He's going to get money in free agency next year. So the Raiders get a 1-year run with him here, see how he fits in this defense.
Yeah, I mean, young, hungry, and he has a good year this year. Obviously, a new contract for whether with the Raiders or with somebody else. So if you're going to get a player, you might as well do it in a contract year. Kind of makes sense for that move. Yannick goes in the deal. I do for the one season. We all know what Yannick is as a player. Not a great run stopper, can get after the quarterback. But I do like. I mean, the year he gave us, what they really gave the Raiders was a good one. He was a part of. He was the pressures, the getting after the quarterback. But obviously, Patrick Graham was more comfortable, and I'm sure he has a loud voice in that room. The Patriots kind of do things in a community sense, and the Raiders are probably doing some of the same things. They end up setting him to go with Gus Bradley and with the Colts, and they end up with Chandler Jones, a move that no Raider insider had.
Yeah, I'm going to shock you here. If you look at Chandler Jones' numbers, I'm going to say he's a borderline Hall of Famer at the end of the day when his career is over. With the amount of sacks that he's been able to get, the forced fumbles, the Pro Bowls, he's a top 5 edge rusher in this league. And to be able to pair him next to Max Crosby, and he can play all 3 downs. The problem with Ngakoue's fit in this defense is he was never going to be a starter as a 3-4 outside linebacker. He would have been come in the nickel and be a rusher. So they were still going to need a starter in the base defense, even though they're probably only going to be in base defense 25% of the time. That wasn't going to be Ngakoue. So he was a role player in this new scheme. So to be able to move him and bring in a young corner. But you're not going to say no to Chandler Jones. I mean, I think I tweeted it out. Chandler Jones and Max Crosby are a top 3 pass rushing duo in the league.
Yeah, exactly.
Clearly, I think Bosa and Mack are going to be one. And depending on if Von Miller goes back, Miller and Donald. But that's it. Like, there's no other pair of edge rushers in the league that are as good as those two. So the Raiders are clearly upgrading the defense, and we'll see what they do. They need turnovers, and one way to do it is to get 30 sacks out of your 2 edge rushers if they can approach that.
Yeah, I mean, that's obviously what the plan is, to get pressure on the quarterback and also defend the passing game as a passing league. Carl Nassif is gone. I think Kukowski also got cut. Some of
Yes.
the Gruden grinders are finding have to find new jobs here in the
And,
in the near future here
and Littleton
as far as
too.
that
Don't
goes.
forget Littleton got let go.
Yeah, Littleton too as well. So I mean, you're seeing a whole makeover here defensively for the Raiders. I do think it's a full team kind of like picture when you look at the free agency too as well, because you have a play call as a head coach, and the first couple moves they made have been on defense. So he's
Yep.
obviously sees the entire team. So I think that's a really good thing as well. And that money, as far as that goes, has to be from June 1st, as far as the Nassif money goes, right? As far as that goes.
Yeah, Nassif and Littleton's money will become available June 1st, so that's going to open up to it possible extensions for Carr and Renfro, and to sign the draft picks. So they're not going to be able to access most of that now. If you do look at it on paper, 3 of the starting 4 linebackers in this defense were Pro Bowlers last year, and Crosby, Perryman, and Jones, and then you have Diablo, who's a young up and coming guy at the other inside backer. Now they're going to have to figure out what to do along that defensive front with the 3 down linemen. Clearly, Bilal Nichols was signed; he's going to fill one of those spots. But
Forgot about Nichols today.
Can they beef up Cleveland Farrell and get him closer to 280 to 290 to kind of just be a run stuffer in there and then go get a nose? But there's still a lot of pieces missing on the offensive side too. They still need to tackle. They still need some wideouts. But
so
that's a great start. Chandler Jones is a Pro Bowl / potential Hall of Fame level player to add to this defense.
Real quick. So you mentioned Cleveland Farrell. So he would have to really fit this defense. He'd have to get up to what weight to what weight. And on that question, and also is Kuntz, can he be a situational edge rusher in this defense as well? Just questions I always get from people.
Yeah, I think Kuntz is clearly the beneficiary of the switch to a 3-4. He can play a 3-4 outside linebacker. He's going to get some opportunity, not a ton. And let's hope Crosby and Jones stay healthy, but he's going to be in the mix for that third rusher off the bench.
Yep.
As far as Farrell, I want to say he got up to around 280 2 years ago, and then last year he looked much leaner. He looked like he was back in the 260 265 range.
Yeah.
To play a 3-4 defensive end in this, he's going to have to get back up to 280 285 at a minimum.
Yeah.
So we'll see. Obviously Graham likes those guys at over 300 pounds.
Yes,
which is why they went out and got Nichols. So we'll see. I don't think he's a fit.
Got Billings too. They got Billings.
Yeah, Billings can play in there.
Yeah.
So if they can find a taker for Cleveland Farrell and get that $10 million off the books, I think they'll do it. I just don't think there's a taker out there for that contract.
I mean, listen, there could be a taker. I mean, have you seen what's going on in Jacksonville? I mean, call Trent and tell him as far as that goes. A couple of players of note, Miles Jack got cut. Also today, I heard that Laviska Shenault is on the block because they spent $120 million on 4 receivers who were not in the top 30. That's fine. out there in Jacksonville. And I guess the Patriots and the Raiders have been connected to Julio Jones as well. So who just got cut as well. Julio Jones doesn't really play enough for me to really get excited about. I wouldn't touch that there. That's not the veteran receiver I want, because he's just not going to be able to get that done as well too. So do you think, last question before we go, like I said, the emergency podcast, the Raiders acquire Rocky Young Scene, and then also get Chandler Jones, and they send Yannick Ngakoue to the Colts. Do you feel like this kind of leaves that spot 22 as still open for anything, or do you feel like it kind of, if they go defense here, that they are a team looking for a wide receiver in that first round?
I still think it leaves anything open, because essentially all they did was swap out Yannick Ngakoue for Chandler Jones, essentially their contracts. I don't know what the cap hit's going to be in year 1 for Chandler Jones, but with an AAV of $17 million, I would assume the cap hit is a little less in the first year. So I'm assuming it's going to be similar to the $13 million they were on the book for with Ngakoue. So I still think the first round can go any which way. I would stay away from Julio Jones. Not only does he get hurt, he's got bad hamstrings, but he never practices. So I know in Josh McDaniels and the Patriot way, in the first year. You can't have a wide receiver come in that's not going to practice, and he's going to miss several games as well. I would stay away from that. I know Josh Jacobs tweeted out like eyeball emoji at Julio Jones.
For what?
I wouldn't go down that route. You know, they're Bama guys, but you know, I would try to get someone that's more dependable.
Yeah.
As far as Miles Jack, I don't see the fit either because I think they're going to roll with Diablo next to Perryman. You know, I could see if Dante Hightower wants to come over, kind of another bigger bodied inside linebacker, and then move off of Perryman, see if you can get Perryman to go to the Colts. I don't know how much Perryman really fits in this scheme. He likes bigger inside linebackers too. So we'll see what happens there. But, you know, right now they're probably swapping out pieces to get better fits for the scheme more so than filling holes. So we'll see what happens as the next couple of weeks go by. And then James Bradbury, I'd still keep my eyes on Bradbury and Gilmore on 1 year deal potentially if Bradbury gets released. Gilmore's mark is shriveling up. If they could get him on, you know, maybe they sign him to a 3 year deal with a couple dummy years at the end to bring the cap hit down and then take a hit if they have to move on after a year. But I think they're still open to filling all the positions on the roster, including safety. They still need a safety and
also right tackle. And then I know they had the best swing tackle in football last year, but they need to get another tackle, another left tackle as well. So, all right, I know we're both on the road, so this the Put on Raiders podcast. Last year we did this and it was KJ Wright. This time it's a little bit more exciting with Chandler Jones. So, all right, see you next time.